Alrighty, hello again guys. I am out in Cancun for several days. I'm going to be going scuba diving and snorkeling. This is some of the gear that I brought with me, which is what I usually bring when I go scuba diving or snorkeling. So there's several items here. This is just personal preference. And then it also depends on your locations. There's a ton of factors, but I usually like to dive in warm water. So I will go somewhere tropical. This trip I'm in Cancun. I've been to Barbados and Jamaica and to a few other places. So this is the gear that I'm going to be bringing with me when I go out on the boat. So we're gonna just start over here. This is just a towel, just a beach towel. Any regular towel will do. The reason I bring a towel is because when you are getting in and out of the water, the temperature of the air may be colder than the water and you don't want to get cold. Also, as the boat is moving from location to location, there will be a breeze or a draft that comes through the boat if it's an open boat. So you just want something to keep you warm when you're not in the water. Next, these are going to be my fins. They make several different types of fins. The ones that I use here are like slip-on type, and they're a nice and tight fit to your feet. So I don't have laces, I don't have straps or anything like that. So it's just a really good fit. And fins are what help you move through the water more efficiently with less effort. Next is going to be my snorkel, and I enjoy this snorkel. One, it's got a few different features on it. It's not just a plastic tube. So at the top, this is going to be a guard. So the air can come in and out, but it does not allow water to go in. Also, it's a valve. So as you go underneath the water, this valve closes and then it doesn't allow water to come back down through the tube. Also on here is a clip for your mask. So it'll hold on to your mask and it doesn't flip around. So that clip is really nice. And then the rubber here allows this tube to bend to whichever orientation you need it to. It's a nice fitting mouthpiece. And then at the very bottom, there's a one-way valve there. So when I'm in the water, if I blow out forcibly, it will clear the snorkel of water and then it will reseal so that I can breathe the air. So that you're not swallowing seawater. Next, I have a extension pole. This one is by DJI. It doesn't really matter the company that you go with. One of the things that is important is if you're gonna be filming, I have a lanyard on here that can tighten onto my wrist like so. And that way, when I'm not holding onto the pole, it's not going to drift off my wrist and my $400 camera isn't going to sink to the bottom of the ocean with all my footage on it from the day. So the lanyard is super important. And why do I use an extension pole? I have two different ones. I'll talk about the other one in a moment, but this one extends, as I said, extension. And the reason I enjoy this one is because if I'm filming a subject, it might be an eel or a turtle or a shark or whatever it may be. I don't want the camera right up close to it if it's connected to me and it's not on an extension, because it means that's how close I have to get to whatever object I'm filming. With this extension, I have a lot more room to extend towards my target and I'm still relatively safe. And it also compresses down really nicely. The thing though about this one, it's very durable. There's a rubber handle for texture and grip. The handle itself is aluminum, so it's very durable, but this does not float. So if you did not have this attached, or if it came off, or if it broke or snapped and you were not holding on to the actual pole, your investment is going to sink again to the bottom of the ocean. So that is just a risk that I take because I enjoy the extension. The next selfie stick I have, this one does float. So it's basically the exact opposite of my other one. So this one does float. It has a very nice soft foam grip. It has an orange tip. There's also a slot for a lanyard if you want to attach a lanyard, but this one does not extend. So what you are giving up with the other one is that the other one, the aluminum one, does not float and it does extend. This one is the opposite. It does not extend, but it does float. So if for some reason your camera were to come off of your wrist, or that lanyard broke, or this slipped out of your hand because you were handling other equipment, this is going to float up to the surface. So I have tested this several times just in a pool, putting my action camera on here and then allowing it to just float, and it will go from the bottom of the pool up to the top, and then you would just simply have to look for the orange or whatever color yours comes in. So I have two different ones of those for the poles. But then another thing to realize is when you are filming with this one, since there's not an extension, whatever subject you are trying to get close to, you have to bring your entire body to that subject. So whether it be a shark or an eel or a turtle or a statue or whatever it may be that is underwater, you have to get your body close enough to view that subject with this one. So this is usually my second option, but I prefer the extension pole. Next, these are just going to be a pair of sunglasses, as plain as they get. I actually just bought them from the shop here in Cancun because I forgot mine. Sunglasses are great because they keep the sun out of your eyes when you're on the boat. They keep the wind out of your eyes if you're going from one location to the next. So on a nice sunny day, sunglasses are great to have. Any pair will do. Next, this is going to be my marker. So this is attached to me in my gear. And if I need to wave down the boat, or if there's an emergency when I'm on the surface of the water, I would simply unvelcro this and it unrolls into a flat tube. Then there's a mouthpiece, and I blow the mouthpiece and it inflates, and then I can wave it if I'm having some type of emergency. If the boat has lost me because I've drifted further than the pickup spot was. There is also a whistle that is in here. So this is great for that. This is super, super important with the whistle on there and the color that it is. It's a very bright neon construction orange. Next, I have two different types of water shoes. First, we'll go over these. These are more of a water sock. They have a little bit of texture on the bottom. They're just made of neoprene. And what these do is insulate my feet if the water is going to be a little bit cooler. And so I will put these on and then I will slide my feet into my fins. And that does two things. It's a little bit more comfortable with my feet in the fins because there's a soft cushion. It also takes up more room in the fin so that my feet fit better and there's no chance of my feet falling out. So these are more like water socks. I would not travel long distances outside walking on the ground with these. There's no protection on the bottom. So these go on your feet like socks, and then you would put your fins on. These are water shoes. If you're going from one location to the next, if you're going from a boat and you're using ladders, things like that. So these bottoms are more protected. They are still soft. As you can see, the shoes are very, very flexible. The bottom is texturized for grip. There's a lot more protection here than the socks, but these are made out of very soft, like neoprene fabric as well. So these are just your basic water shoes. When I am snorkeling, sometimes you can touch the bottom where you're snorkeling. So it's only like 4 or 5 feet deep. And the texture of the floor of whatever you're swimming above may be rough with rocks or shells or sea urchins, things like that. So if I'm just gonna be snorkeling, a lot of the times I will also have these handy with me. Next is going to be my dive mask. And on the top, there is a connection for a action camera. So again, this goes over your face like any set of goggles, and then the camera simply attaches to the top. So that's more of a POV look. So wherever your head looks is where the camera is going to be looking. Again, things to consider are that whatever you are looking at, you need to get that close basically with your face. So this is not a camera option that I use very often because there's a lot of things in the water that I like to capture, but I don't want to put my face right up to them. So again, there's going to be marine life down there, or there's barrier reefs and there's coral reefs and tons of wildlife and things that I don't want my face right up against so that the camera will capture it. So one of the downfalls of the action cameras is that you have to set your zoom level, which is not very much, and then you just have to go. So it's more of a set and forget, and then you swim. I have a small tube or tub of Vaseline here. You're probably wondering what that is for. That is for my mask. So before I will go in the water, I will take just a very light layer of Vaseline and apply it to my cheeks. And what that does is it creates a seal within the goggles so that my goggles do not leak when I'm underwater. So the Vaseline takes up all that space because I have a bit of a beard, and then it creates a watertight seal. So that is what that is for. This is my leg rig. This is a knife. It is a dive knife. So it just simply goes over your leg. I've seen some people put them on their arms in different places. A dive knife is super, super important for several reasons. One, it could be self-defense if you're being attacked by some type of animal in the water. You can use this for self-defense. Another is if you get caught in some type of line or entanglement because you have a ton of gear on you. You have your BCD, your tank, your regulator, your mask, your fins. There's a lot of things in the water that you could get caught on. So having a knife is super important, and I can activate it with just one hand. So it's a latch system. So it just comes out just like that. And then there's a nice satisfying click. So it is very well secured. And then there's just a button. If you can see, you just press that button in and it slides right out. There is a hook on there in case I get something caught, I can pull off that, which would be fishing line. I have a flat edge, and then I also have a serrated edge. So it is a very, very handy knife, and I do not dive without that. Then we have my diving suit. This is my wetsuit. This is a full body wetsuit. So it covers my arms all the way to my wrists, and it covers my legs all the way to my ankles, and it is connected in the middle. So it is just a one giant suit. I believe it is 5 millimeters thick, if not 3. So you can get them in different sizes. You can get them in different thicknesses, and that's going to depend on the water that you're diving in. So if you're going to be in very, very hot water, tropical water, you may only need a half suit or a quarter suit, a 3/4 suit, and you may not need such thick material. So the thicker the material, the more it's going to insulate you, and the more coverage, like this full suit, you're also going to stay warmer in the water. I am not one that likes to be cold, so I opted for a full-size suit, and I believe it's 3 millimeters thick. So as I dive more, maybe I will get a half or a quarter suit. 3/4. So it's just the short sleeves and the shorts. So something along those lines. So that is my wetsuit. I have a full size 3mm. And lastly, that you guys will see on camera, this is my GoPro 12. And this has worked quite well for me. The only thing is the battery life can be kind of short. I usually will put this on my extension rod, attach it to my wrist, and that is my setup. Rarely do I put it on my goggles, and the selfie stick that does not extend but floats is my second option. GoPro does a really good job with their color profile when you're underwater. I also have a red filter lens because the deeper you dive, you'll lose colors. So you want to put a red filter over your case here, over your dive case, but I did not have that in here. And then I also have a second camera for B-roll, which is what I'm filming on, which is my DJI Action 5. So this is all the gear that I'm going to be bringing with me when I dive. You guys can take this list and expand on it or shorten it for yourself, but you're going to want masks. You're going to want goggles, because otherwise when you go places, you're going to have to rent those, and those are things that people have already used. And then sometimes just a swimsuit is not going to cut it because the water may be a little cooler. Another thing to consider is the deeper that you dive, the water temperature decreases as you go down, and you also lose light as you go down because light only travels through water so far. So yeah, that is my ramble for this. This is going to be my gear for when I dive or snorkel, and you guys can take this list if you want. So if you enjoy the content, as always, like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.